Josh Manson is a very capable NHL defenseman, and I think that he could be a very good fit for the Winnipeg Jets if they're unable to acquire another defenseman like Mattias Ekholm, or the asking price on Ekholm, or even Savard for that matter, or even Vince Dunn is too high for the Jets and they don't want to pay a top prospect. Because let's be honest, I don't think there's a single Jets fan that wants the Jets to part with Vesalainen or Cole Perfetti, because although we want the team to be able to compete now and go for a win-now trade, none of those guys are worth that in an asset, and I don't think it would be a very good smart move for this club's future to give up any of those guys in a trade to even bring in a guy like Mattias Ekholm to Winnipeg when there are very good capable options in free agency and in other areas you could explore in a trade with other players and chips and parts that you can move without having to move out your basically future young core. Because let's face it, it's important to have a young core even when you're competing, and these guys should be on the Jets very soon, especially Ville Heinola. He should already be on the club, so trading him is not a smart move. But Josh Manson's a guy I think the Jets could get, who's a very similar player to Mattias Ekholm, except he's on a more affordable contract, and he is signed for an additional year like Ekholm as well. And as a little side benefit as well, Josh Manson's father, Dave Manson, actually played a couple seasons for the Jets 1.0 way back in the day, so a little bit of family heritage there with the club, and I think that would be a little fun thing to have another have another dad's son of an NHLer that was a Jet coming on the club. That could be something fun as well. So a little bit of a heritage, a little bit of a connection there with the team. Well, not this team, but you know what I mean about that, Jets fans. Getting back on board, though, with that, I think that it could be a good fit. When you look at Josh Manson's play so far throughout the last 3 seasons, including this year, with so far it's only been 12 games for him, and that brings me into the kind of problem with him, is that he is a very injury-prone defenseman, and when you look at his games played for over the last 4 years, you see exactly what I'm talking about. Playing 80 games in 2017-18, putting up 7 goals, 30 assists for a 37-point campaign, very impressive, but also putting up 62 penalty minutes, so a pretty big penalty tackle there. But nonetheless, going into the year after that, that's when it starts to get a little concerning. 74 games played, 3 goals, 13 assists, 16 points, a step back, but also due to injuries, so, not a horrible season with everything put into perspective. 2019-20, 50 games played, way less games than where he was already, 30 games less than where he was 2 years ago, and only putting up a goal and 8 assists for 9 points. Then you get brought into this year, and you have to take into consideration that he's already dealt with a lot of injuries, 12 games played only, and a goal and assist being put up for 2 points. And in those 12 games, also putting up 10 penalty minutes. So a guy who does take a lot of penalties, but he's a very physical defenseman, and he can be responsible at times in his own end. And a lot of those penalties he takes are kind of like those penalties that, are the okay penalties, you like to say, where a coach is like, if you're going to take a penalty, take it to stop a goal. And he has made a lot of plays like that in his career. But the thing that brings Manson that's interesting, in my opinion, is that the cost of acquiring a player like him should be less than Ekholm, because of the fact that, like I said, he's played less games and is really injury prone at this point. Now, the Jets would definitely miss their prospects that they would have to give up, because most likely, let's be real, if the Jets are able to acquire Manson and there is other teams interested, it's most likely going to cost the Jets their first-round pick, potentially Sami Niku, or a guy like Jansen Harkins, or Christian Vesalainen. Not all 3 of those guys, but definitely one of them would be on the move, and maybe even potentially a 3rd or 4th-round pick if the Jets are able to re-sign him this offseason as a conditional clause part of that deal. There's lots of different ways that this could go down, but I think I like a trade better for Manson than Ekholm at this point, because he plays a simple game, he's a strong blue liner, and he plays a very physical game as well. And I think that could benefit the Jets a lot, because they don't have a lot of physical guys. Now that you have Nathan Beaulieu, who, let's be real, hasn't been that good anyway, out for the rest of the season, that just limits your options as well for the playoffs, for guys to come off your taxi squad for depth, and that's important. I may not like Nathan Beaulieu, and you might not like Nathan Beaulieu either, but depth is important for a playoff run, and I would rather have Nathan Beaulieu coming in than some bum off the taxi squad or the Moose that's never played an NHL game, that isn't a capable NHL defender, because that's the best we have at the time. So going out to get a guy like Manson, it could be good for this club, because he's cheaper, signed for an additional year, and overall just has a good, vibe and play style that would mesh in well with the Jets' blue line, I feel like. And this offseason and this free agency are going to have a lot of similarities to it, because the Jets are very tight to the cap, and they have to look into the future as well. Neil Pionk needs a contract. Lowry and Kopp are going to need contracts. Appleton's having a great year and only has 1 more year left of that minimum league contract. So what are you going to do for money? And not to mention the fact that Pierre-Luc Dubois has 1 more year left at that current $5 million cap hit. What do you do after that? How much money does he command after the season he has with a full year with the Jets? There's so many variables with this club and the cap and the construction of what it's going to look like that the Jets might not be able to go out and commit $4 million to Mattias Ekholm right now. And the problem being, like I said, is that Manson's contract is very similar to Ekholm. That's the only downside, minus the fact that he's injury prone, to this trade being an option for the Jets. 29 years old, he's younger currently than Ekholm, making 4.1 for this year and next year. The question is, where does that money come from? You could argue the point that, oh, Matthew Perreault's expiring, right? That's $4 million. That's where the money comes from to replace a defenseman. That could be true, but then where are you going to put that other money? Because in my view of what the way the cap's going to be structured, you need to invest some of that $4 million into either, if you decide to keep Lowry or Kopp, you got to give them raises, right? And that money is going to have to come out of somewhere. And not to mention Paul Stastny's expiring, so what do you do with the top six? How much money do you invest in there? So the Jets have options with their cap, but they also have to be careful on how they spend it. And Manson might not be the guy that Cheveldayoff wants to commit to for another year at $4 million because of the fact he's injury prone, and you might not be certain at what he's going to get. Like I said at the start of this video, Chevy wants to add the best player available that has the best fit currently and the best, quickest fit, like what we saw from Stastny, and he wants to make the right trade properly. So it's going to be really interesting whether or not this happens with the Jets. It's just a rumor at this point, but there are a lot of different options on the table. Goligoski done, Ekholm, now Josh Manson gets added to that list. You already have David Savard. There's tons of guys the Jets could go out and get. I'm just adding more to the list and seeing what could happen because there's different variables with every trade. There's a lot of variables with this one and a lot of different reasons why it's a good trade and bad trade, but nonetheless, it's a trade that would help the Jets now and next year as well. Let me know your thoughts about this trade in the comment section below as always. Would you like to see Josh Manson on this team, depending on what how much it costs? What would your thoughts be on him? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below as always. And if you guys are a fan of this channel and you're enjoying the content I produce and you're a fan of hockey regardless of the team you root for, definitely consider dropping a subscription. It really has helped the channel out as we're pushing towards that 1K subscriber mark. Peace, love, and positivity as always. I will see you guys in the next video. Go Jets, go.